Hello, welcome to Earworm episode 18, where today we're going to talk about the difference between a score, a soundtrack, and a musical.
Yeah.
I'm Patrick Cloud.
I'm Bryan Clark.
And we've been kind of doing a lot of digging this morning because there's so many movies that we love, and we tend to gravitate towards episodes about film. We've done a few at this point about just how music is relative to the film, how it creates emotion, but also how sound effects work. But today I was very surprised when I told you, when we were talking yesterday about a soundtrack and a score, and you're like, isn't that the same thing?
Yeah.
And it isn't.
Technically.
Right.
It technically is not. Yes, you have educated me on the technical definition
I
of
taught
it.
Bryan something.
Classical is dead, but we're bringing it back. A score is a score, but it's also a soundtrack. Earworm stuck in my mind, can't get it out this time.
I feel really good about myself.
I feel good about learning stuff. Thank you.
So we'll break it down. So a score is typically There's orchestral. There's very rare vocal performance, and it's usually beat for beat written for the movie to create tone and effect.
Right. It's the bed. It's the music. It's going to be foreground, midground, or background.
Right.
And that's its function.
So now a score can be on a soundtrack.
Yes,
Right.
but the thing that I learned is that not all elements of what you hear in the movie go on the soundtrack,
Right.
particularly when it's related to the score.
Right.
Because there may be lots of score that it was created and recorded, but it doesn't make it onto the soundtrack.
Right. And for anybody that's listening that's younger than 20 years old, a soundtrack is a collection of songs, whether they're popular songs or songs written for the movie by an artist that are vocal performed. And then there would be a compilation that would be kind of a companion to the film when the film came out. It was always fun to see the soundtrack come out maybe 2 weeks before the movie did. And remember that? It's like a soundtrack come out and you'd know all the songs that are going to be in the movie.
Yeah.
And so that was always cool. But a soundtrack now is essentially would be a playlist on, a Spotify or Apple Music.
Absolutely.
Now scores are still released.
They are.
And reissues of soundtracks are still released.
And when the scores are released, they are called soundtracks, which is what the confusion really stems from.
Or it says original film score.
But it'll also say original motion picture soundtrack. And
Still different.
But there may or may not be a song that was specifically written, a pop song or something that has vocals and lyrics on that.
Right. It's not going to be just the score called a soundtrack.
Well,
it's got to have a song on it that's vocal to be a sound. I'm telling you, it's got to be a
I don't know.
vocal
I don't know.
performance.
See, my definition book, when I was trying to read up on it, said opposite. I don't know if there's a real hard and fast rule, but I'll go with you.
Yeah.
But to me, it's sort of like, because look, you can have the official soundtrack for A New Hope.
Did you hear that?
Right? And there's no Celine Dion song.
Right.
On that.
Maybe that came later because now it is.
I think it came first.
You think the score came first?
Well, the score had to have come
No,
first.
I'm saying the terminology of the score, because the Star Wars soundtrack was probably the score on a soundtrack. But now, if you buy it, it's going to be the original film score. It's not the soundtrack to Star Wars.
I think it's one of those kind of words that gets bastardized so much that probably people don't. It's like a chicken or the egg thing. Like, we don't know what came first, because every time I've got so many in my library of motion picture soundtrack, and there's no songs on it. It's the score.
Right.
So the way I would think, the way that it made sense to me, and feel free to disagree with us, ladies and gentlemen. Like, you can put your comments in the chat or whatever, because I'm thinking, look, if it's a soundtrack, then I'm going to probably hear, most likely, most of the score that was written for the movie, and then whatever song that was going to come with it, right? And it's usually a hodgepodge between the two, and it's done for very specific economic reasons. But you could have the official motion picture soundtrack, and it could have no songs, or it could have no score. Like, I think it's one of those things where it doesn't change the fact that it is what we would think of as a generic term, soundtrack.
Right.
That's the way my brain thinks about
my
it.
My definition is if the score is on a thing and there's no songs and it's just the score, then it's the original film score. And if it's a soundtrack, it might have pieces of the score on it, or it might have the entire score as well as songs that were written or performed for the movie. For instance, behind me is the Crow soundtrack.
Yeah.
They also have the Crow original score that they released separately. That's not all the soundtrack.
Right. And I think that so there's room for that. They did it with Barbie as well, because you had the Barbie.
They released
and then
them together, which I thought was kind of cool.
I think so too. Yeah. And you had Barbie, which was the soundtrack,
which was the Billie Eilish song.
Yes, and then you had
I'm Just Ken, which was so hilarious.
Right, and then you had the Ken, which was the score, which I think is cool.
Yeah.
Or it could be flip-flopped. I can't remember. I didn't buy them. But then a lot of them go for...
Did you see Oppenheimer? Yeah, anyway.
Exactly. But it's one of those things where I think if you went online and searched and said motion picture soundtrack, it's going to give you the recordings that were issued, whether it was score or not. That's how I think ubiquitous the word gets used. It's it's not as specific as it should be.
Well, I don't know. You're not going to go buy the soundtrack for Spider-Man Brand New Day at the record store. No, it's unlikely.
Yeah,
right?
But if we went on, iTunes or Apple Music, or you went on Spotify or whatever, and you did motion picture soundtrack to whatever Spider-Man, I think you're gonna get that. And it's going to have the score in it, and it's going to have whatever else was part of the movie that they deemed necessary. Because the one thing that I think is important, whenever you have a hit song to help promote the film, because most of the time, let's be honest, if it's pure score, it's not going to be a scorcher. It's not going to be a Billboard number one.
That's right.
Right?
It's very freeform.
As much as I love pure score recordings, it is not going to rock it right up there. You know what I mean? So it's not going to get off, BTS.
I'd be interested to see if there have been any film scores that have hit the Billboard Hot 100 or something.
I probably before that chart was around, but maybe if we went back to the 30s, and we get into the Disney musicals, it would have worked.
True, yeah.
Right? So this is where you have that collision.
That is a collision because that's a musical.
Yep. And it can also be the score. Right. And it can also be the soundtrack. Right. So I think my brain starts throwing parts because I can't neatly compartmentalize this word. But I think that's a really important thing. And when an artist comes in and makes a theme, so for me, the gold standard, kind of what you're talking about, is a song specifically written for the movie.
Like the Billie Eilish track.
Yeah,
which was so beautifully done.
Oh, it was so good. I cried.
Yeah.
I'm not ashamed to admit it.
I don't think I did. I was watching Oppenheimer.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well.
I was crying during that. I was very worried about the world.
Different reasons. Yeah. But I think that's the...
No, but you have a gold standard. I interrupted you. What's the gold standard?
Well, my gold standard is all of the Bond franchise.
Totally, dude.
Right? Because you had...
By the way, Billie Eilish also did.
Also, but you had Adele. My favorite recent one with the Daniel Craig era was the Jack White one. That was
right.
Love that one. But I thought that was dope. But... there's all hit or misses, but you had everybody from, Duran Duran way back in the day to Paul McCartney with Live and Let Die. You had Goldfinger. You had that one too. That totally. Was right. Yeah. And you had you had all
hilariously
right. It just sounded gross, when they but all of those kind of things, all of those songs were written for the movie as the title opener. It never got featured in the film again. It was an opening credit montage.
That's true.
That is the thing. So we're not just, and by the way, we're not just talking about music licensing, but when that happens, this gets back to the economic point that I was making. It's a huge driver for people to associate a song with a movie, and it brings people into the theater.
Yeah.
Because they get a chance to relate to the song in a different way. And that's one of the reasons why you totally nailed it, that they would release the soundtracks early.
Right.
Because then there's saturation, particularly if it's new material like that Crow soundtrack you have behind you, where those songs are not really... Are they on any of those bands' records ever, or was it only for this release?
The Stone Temple Pilots track is. Okay. I know that because it's The Big Empty.
Oh, okay.
And that's one of the, I think that was on Purple.
Yeah.
Or, I could be wrong.
So, but besides that, The Cure, I didn't recognize.
That's definitely a unique Cure sign. These were written for the movie, which is always really a cool thing.
And I think one of the other one that just immediately jumped in my brain is From Dusk Till Dawn, the Tarantino one. There are some, so that was one soundtrack that I listened to in a record store. They had a little CD listening kiosk, and I listened to it, and I was like, "Oh, ZZ Top's on this?" And I put it on, and it had Mexican Blackbird, and She's Just Killing Me. And for those of you who are ZZ Top fans, we're all over the drum machines and the synths, right? We're over that. After Afterburner, it was kind of like, we're done. That was as far as I could stretch it. Eliminator was already a stretch. But you had, Sharp Dressed Man and all the other great hits on that record. And then there was like this free fall of what is ZZ Top doing? And it was just synth rehash, album after album. Then they came out with this one album, I know this is a little bit of a sidebar, which was Rhythm Mean.
Okay.
And Rhythm Mean is all about driving hot rods down Chapatulas back in New Orleans. It is a fucking great record. I highly recommend Rhythm Mean. And it is like they've gone back to their roots. And this is what I felt like when I heard She's Just Killing Me, because it happens at the part where Selma Hayek comes out with the albino, boa constrictor.
We're talking peak Hayek.
Oh, peak Hayek, right? Yeah, right? Well, come on, welcome to the Titty Twister.
The best Cheech Marin part ever. But,
so good.
So okay, so I want to kind of I want to clean the slate and start over a little bit.
Okay.
I want to talk about with any of you have seen a movie and ever thought to turn the music off in it, because that's really what this is about. We're talking about how it enhances the film, and when Bryan and I were talking about it, it was like, if you ever take the music out of a film, and it's very rare that you have films that don't have some kind of underlying music or emphasis or these exciting parts, action sequences, whatever it is that causes the emotional arrangement. So before 1933, there really wasn't any of that. There was very little of that. There was you would go to the movie theater and they'd have a live orchestra playing for the originally, right? And then so the first 1933 was the first time that we had a score, a fully original score, and an original soundtrack. That was from a musical. Right. What else happened in 1933? FDR got elected. Hitler got elected. Hitler became chancellor. Right. We got the end of Prohibition.
Big years.
Monopoly.
Monopoly.
The Loch Ness Monster's first
That's
picture.
right.
Nessie.
Are we talking about Parker Brothers' purchase of Monopoly?
Because this is a Milton Bradley situation.
Oh, it might be. But you know who originally created, the story behind Monopoly?
What, probably Trump's grandfather?
No, far from it. She was a socialist, and she was trying to show the downfalls of what late stage capitalism was going to look like, because you end up basically getting into a war of attrition with your neighbor. And you essentially bankrupt your neighbor.
I didn't know that's what Monopoly had.
That is what it was meant to be.
And
then
tone.
Then they bought the rights to it and turned it into one of the most popular board games ever. But think about it, guys.
Socialism, the game.
No, but think about it. There's that moment when you would play Monopoly as a kid, and you get to the point where you start feeling sorry because you know that you're about to devastate someone's finances. I think that was the moral lesson that this game was originally admitted, and not the more hyper conservatives, the stereotypical hyper neo-capitalist greed is good, Gordon Gekko, Wolf of Wall Street, where it's just like, fuck you, I'm getting mine.
Great score, by the way.
Well, true. Anyway.
So back to 1933.
Exactly.
No, that's good. That's a good aside, though. But 1933, so Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, first soundtrack, Disney movie. And we're going to talk a lot more about Disney later in the show. And then the original score was King Kong. Was the first,
that's right,
like fully original score in 1933.
It was, and you and I could back the bus up just a little bit further if we went to 1926 with Don Juan, right? Because that was the first time that actually we moved away from a live performance of music in a silent film. Because before 1927, 1 year later, that's when we had Al Jolson, the jazz singer, and that was the first talkie. Right. And so now when we move forward into 33, now we've got original scores.
Right. So just to be more specific, Don Juan wasn't an original score. It was music that was captured and used in the film.
And it was what was unique about that, it was a full symphony orchestra that was previously recorded and just used in the film. It was actually synced
Played
with
it on a Vitaphone.
That's right.
Which we featured on an episode already.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, that's pretty cool stuff in 33 when it starts to happen. And when we get into score and how it tries to move into telling the story in a musical way to elicit an emotional response from the viewer and the listeners, I think that's where we get to it, because we've got hundreds of years of history that we associate, particularly in the West, with Western music. We associate certain types of emotions with a certain type of tonality, keys, not necessarily C or B flat or whatever, but I mean in the sense of like modes, like minor modes, major modes, and derivations in between, synthetic scales, all kinds of really cool compositional devices. All of these early films that we're talking about, King Kong included, and then when we get into Korn Gold later, and then we get into Bernard Herrmann and some of the really big guys that were, Bernard Herrmann, just saying it now, my all-time favorite score for that late romantic era that was pre-John Williams, pre-big blasting type of big Kamen, production. Yeah. Before that class, the older class, I don't think you can beat Vertigo from Bernard Herrmann. That to me is the most luscious score.
Well, that brings a question.
It's my favorite score.
That brings a question, and it begs to be answered. You ready?
Yeah. What is it?
What it does make a great film score?
Oh, dude.
What inclusions or exclusions? Because I think about, character. I like building senses of irony. Yeah, I like, when there's a big movement of some cathartic moment in the movie and it changes the mood entirely. I really love the irony and the exposition in comedy whenever it can be used for comedic moments where it's like whether it's a sound or a horn or somebody rips a fart and it's a French horn, anything like that's like the real Looney Tunes in me. But so in essence, outside of those things, what's included in a great score?
Boy, that is a loaded question. I mean,
it is. I told you my answer already. My question.
I don't know if I can fully answer it. To be honest, I don't know if anybody can because it's one of those like existential kind of big moment questions. I don't know. I mean, obviously it's whatever moves you, but if we look at traditional practices, from King Kong on, the majority of Hollywood releases were major theatrical releases, all had full symphony orchestra recordings.
Yes.
Full thing. So you're looking at the late Romantic era / early 20th century level of a huge symphony orchestra.
Like a minimum of like 48 piece going up to...
Oh, more than that. I'd say a minimum of 150.
Jeez.
You know what I mean? Because you have full brass, winds, strings, percussion, and then you have all the ancillary instrument. And then if there's a choral background with oohs and ahs, you've got to have another 100 plus singers to make these giant scores. And there were a lot of composers that really specialized in these massively large orchestrated scores that went with these big, like Ben-Hur. A Gladiator, those types of things were monumental in the early days of Hollywood, and Bernard Herrmann was part of that crowd. You think about all the great things, but Herrmann could strip things down. So just to kind of answer it, I don't know, because today you can have an incredibly amazing score with very, very few instruments. And like, for example, the most pared down that I can immediately think of off the top of my head is Birdman with Michael Keaton.
Right. I didn't even know until you told me a little while ago about that one. Yeah.
It's literally,
I've seen the movie. But...
I love the movie. Yeah. I thought the movie was fantastic. That was literally a drum set. That was it. That's the only thing in the score. And if you buy the score or listen to the score, you're going to hear just a drummer, a solo drummer. Sounds like they're practicing, they're doing it. But the cool part in the movie, if you remember, there's a moment in the movie a couple times where he walks past down the street or in these scenes, and it's literally the score being played. The drummer who did the score is playing drums in the street as if he's like a busker. Yeah. And I thought, oh, that's lovely, that's amazing. Just to be able to do that. So there's some other really sparse ones. So it could be a single synthesizer. Neil Young did Dead Man with Johnny Depp, and that was just guitar.
Sure.
So I don't know. That's my answer.
I think the way that I would categorize it, and that's kind of a good answer, though. I mean, I think that for me, I feel like a good theme should be locked in, right? There should be an overarching theme.
Okay, so
where you have a melody through line that's repeatable in different modes and however throughout the entire film to add some kind of cohesion to the movement of the film.
Right.
I find that to be extraordinarily important. They don't have to have one. Right. There doesn't have to be. But I find that the great films have great themes, right? So I'm talking about big movies, Jurassic Park, right? You can sing that to me right now.
Sure.
You could sing multiple parts of it to me right now. Pirates of the Caribbean.
Right.
Right? Big themes. Harry Potter. Star Wars.
All John
One of
Williams.
the greatest.
Yeah.
Hans Zimmer too.
Yeah, that's true.
Zimmer did the Pirates.
Did he do all the Pirates? I don't know.
So,
okay,
yeah.
all right, I'll take your word for it. I don't know.
He also did Interstellar, which is another
That's great.
incredible thing.
Yeah.
But then you look at Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is this long, sprawling series, but they use those through lines of the theme throughout the entire show. They're even using it in the new series, which is really cool. That's Ramin Djawadi, who's an absolutely incredible composer.
Right.
And then you got your ones like The Godfather and Jaws. And like these are films that have great themes and through lines that show up throughout the movie and kind of keep you in the mood to do that. So I think that's one thing that makes a great score.
I agree with that. That's the compositional element of it, and I think that there's
maybe I should have been more specific in my question.
Well, that would have answered.
What makes a good composition of a score?
I think you're right. If you ask me that question, then I can answer that a little more succinctly, which is yes, you're completely right. We need to have, just as character development happens in the dialogue and in the wardrobing and in the setting of wherever the character is primarily based, we also need to have that as a musical equivalent if we're going to be having further opportunities to develop leitmotifs, to do foreshadowing, to do irony, to do all of those types of things. Now, this really stems from early compositional stuff that really reached its zenith back in late Romanticism with Richard Wagner and Richard Strauss. These are the concept that we're talking about right now is called the leitmotif. And the leitmotif is basically where you have a character that is associated with a melodic fragment. And then once you start establishing that so that every time it comes into play, you can understand. So, for example, if you have, say, a husband and a wife and they're having an argument and one of them has been found out to be unfaithful to the other, and we know their leitmotifs because we would have heard this many times throughout an opera or whatever, if they were saying, who's your lover, and one of the person who's guilty is saying, I don't have a lover, and they're singing the leitmotif of another character that we know they had an affair with.
Right.
This is what you establish by having a theme and everything else. But you can also have, just to flip the coin, you can also have a good score, in my opinion, like Sicario, which
it's minimal.
It's incredibly minimal. In fact, sometimes it's just subtones that are just rolling around in the bottom. There's no defined melody, and there's just like these big sort of just sounds that just sort of emerge, and it's like pools of tone, and then a rhythmic element, and then it just dies back down.
Right. It kind of reminds me of the what Matt Damon said recently when he was talking to Rogan about how in the future of movies you have to repeat the plot several times because people are on their phones. Subconsciously, those leitmotifs help that plot device continue to be repeated. Yep. I think one of the master strokes in this regard is, for years we watched Star Wars and we know the Imperial March and we know it so deeply in our head and it's so ingrained in culture. But then they started making the prequels, and Anakin Skywalker, when he turns dark, you hear Darth Vader's theme drifting and in the background. Yeah. And it's like, that is an unbelievable way to piece all that together over a period of time. So that's a leitmotif, and usually 2 to 8 notes in a sequence. It's usually a really small melody or whatever.
Yeah, it has to be short.
But it's always this shit matters. It's like it's a device that says what's happening right now is important.
Look, and we talked about this on a previous episode where we mentioned song form and we talked about songwriting, but we talked about the idea of the hook in a song, right? And it's the beginning of the beginning lick of Pretty Woman, or the beginning of Sweet Home Alabama, or the beginning of Master of Puppets, whatever. Pick your genre.
Alabama, that's the Kid Rock song, right?
Yeah.
Sing Sweet Home Alabama.
Yeah, well, how many songs in modern country music has Sweet Home Alabama been referenced
threw you
in?
off. My bad.
No, dude, don't get me off. Don't get me off track.
Save your intros, your Pretty Women's, and your.
Oh, I think, or whatever classic riff that you go, that is the most righteous grooving riff ever. That's essentially an immediate, I know exactly what song this is. Mm-hmm. The same thing happens to us in the theater when we associate that riff or lick with a character. Yeah. Or a place. Yeah. Right? Because if you think about it...
Or a situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
A moment.
Yeah, it happens a lot in the Star Wars saga where each planet has its own orchestration moment. Right? They'll have a very interesting synth instrument, or they'll have something there. Think about, Zimmer's use of that in Dune. Or you can think of it in Blade Runner with Vangelis and the CS80, the Yamaha CS80 synth. which we've talked about in a previous episode as well.
Synth matters.
Yes. And, all those kind of things. And they evoke a place because of that. It happened most recently with the Odyssey, where you have the zithers and you have the bow when he finally strings his bow and he plucks the chord. But they were playing traditional Greek re-inspired that they got off of
I could just see Ludwig Göransson being like, I want that lute. Can you get me that lute?
Yeah, get the lyre. They wanted the
give me
lyre.
the lyre.
Yeah. And so it's like, yeah, man, like that's what we're talking about. Because theoretically, it's going to put us in a place where we've got a prehistorical, associative property in our brains of looking at ancient Greek art, whether it's on a vase or a mural or whatever's surviving. And then we go, what is that? Oh, it's a lyre. Okay, cool. Oh, that's a flute. It's a double flute, right? That you play single-handedly in each hand. That's what they recreated for the Odyssey. So it puts us in a place. And it'd be like if we did a music, it happens a lot in Syriana. It happens a lot with movies that are based in the Middle East. They have a tendency to use ouds and they use indigenous instrument, right? The same thing with Japanese film, right? They're going to use traditional Japanese instruments if it's a period piece, because you're going to have shakuhachis and, shows and biwas and, all of those great classical instruments.
Right, or in like the Bollywood films, you got your heavy sitars and
and an 808.
And an 808. Yeah, it's true, though. It's true. It's so funny. That's cool. Yeah, I think it's really important for, the score to really move the film.
And it has to.
It has to. And it can bring it to a halt as well,
I'll tell you, I mean, I'm not a huge film scoring person. I have a handful under my belt just doing it when I was living back in LA and then writing a lot for TV and film.
What's that process like?
Well, it's very interesting because the first time that you get to see the director make an edit of a film, and it may not be the full edit of the film yet. It may just be a scene or two,
right?
And you have to spot through it with the director. If it's an independent film, you're going to probably just be you and the director. If it's a major blockbuster stuff, you're probably going to have some of the executive producers and their wishes, and then the record label. More money means more people. Mm-hmm. So, fortunately for me, I didn't have that problem. I would just work directly with the directors when we were working on their films, and we would sit through the scene. And for me, the thing that I would go is like, what's the stakes here? Like an actor has stakes, right? And if you're trained in acting, the director is supposed to give you, the actor, what is the stakes? What do you have to give us in this scene? What's really the most important moment, or the through line that you need to adhere to, regardless of what the dialogue says? You know what I mean? If it's to give you this sense of underlying rage, how are you going to do that when you're saying "I love you"? Right? You know what I mean? And so the director goes to the actor and says, "This is your stakes. You cannot let down your guard. You have to be absolutely fuming, even though you have to say it in the nicest way possible. That's your stakes." The same thing happens with composers. We have to look at it, and I'm looking at the director, and we're talking through, and I'm watching the actors who he's already given director chops to, and then he says, okay, this is what the music needs to reflect here. Or they may be unsure, and they're like, what do you think? And I'm like, okay, this is what I'm picking up on. I feel like there's this rage thing going on. You know what I mean? And then you come up with a collective vision, and then you go score it. It's fascinating because some of the most beautiful moments that I can think of on screen, if you turn the sound off, they completely fall apart. And I'm talking about the music, not the dialogue.
Sure.
But just if you turn this music off, if there's a way, just mute it next time you do it, you'll go, this doesn't have the emotional thing. So case in point, we were watching the history of the sitcom. It's a CNN sort of series. And we're on this episode where they're talking about sexuality kind of coming into American sitcoms through the history, through the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s. Anyway, we get into the part where more and more gay characters are coming into the screen, and there's Modern Family. I never watched Modern Family. I was just too busy working, right? So I had no association to these characters at all. And there's this moment where there's these two lovely male actors who decide that they want to get married, and they're apparent. And I'm listening to this being narrated over by one of the actors who was talking about this, right? And they're talking about something other. They're like, this is a big gay moment for us where more tolerance was had for, the whole homosexual community, which is great. So Anyway, they're talking about this thing, and they play the scene, and apparently the car is dead on the side of the freeway, and they're trying to change a tire, and they're both on a knee, and they're looking across from each other, and they both know what they're saying to each other, and they don't even say anything. They just look at each other, and they both say yes at the same time. I started crying, and Kristen, my wife, was like, "Are you crying?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like that's a touching moment." And the thing that set me off is the music, because it was this beautiful double felt piano. It was a very touching moment. It was very just sparse, and it was this tender moment that just makes your heart melt. That's the power of music, and that's what you want to go for when you're spotting through with a director.
Right,
it's those moments,
and it's not just that moment; it's fear.
Yeah,
and it's
the whole gamut.
It's every emotion or every feeling that you can have, totally enunciated. I mean, it's just like putting punctuation in a sentence, man. It's like so critical, but in the same way, it's like it's used for comedy.
Timing is everything. Yeah.
Timing, so crazy. We were talking about just the irony and comedy that can come out of it. One of my favorites is American Psycho, and he does it several times as an irony device, or she does, excuse me, several times as an irony device in that film.
Yeah.
From the Phil Collins references to the Hip to Be Square when he's murdering Paul Allen, which is just the dun, 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 dun. Hey Paul, and it's just
dark,
so good. And then Walking on Sunshine, like
creep.
It's so crazy.
Yep. Well, and also, not to derail you, but the moment in Reservoir Dogs, right, where you've got the Harry Nilsson, put the lime in the coconut, right, and it's like, what is happening here? Because this is gonna go wrong.
Yeah, where else was there? We were talking Clockwork Orange.
Clockwork Orange.
It's like every violent moment is like punctuated by like Singing in the Rain
or Beethoven piano sonatas.
Beethoven,
solo piano sonata. Yeah, some of the most violent scenes, the rape scene, many of the others is a solo thing. With Kubrick was an interesting guy. He understood.
He's the guy that filmed the moon landing, right?
Yeah, wasn't it 2001?
Well, who held the camera, man?
Isn't that when we went? Didn't Hal take us to the moon?
It was something like that. Like, who was holding the camera?
Right? Hal.
Yeah, it was Hal.
Hal was Hal. Yeah, when in doubt.
So what about Kubrick?
So Kubrick was amazing because I think his choice of, he didn't necessarily have, he did stuff with Wendy Carlos, but the
phenomenal legend.
Yeah, but not, and who also did Tron, which is a wonderful movie, the original, the OG Tron with Jeff Bridges, but what he did is he would find very esoteric 20th century composers. So Krzysztof Penderecki, Georgi Ligeti. These were guys that were doing microtonal sort of movement. And so when you look at some of the most creepy moments, like in The Shining, and and they're like, "Come play with us," right? And then the blood opens up with the elevator and it floods all. A lot of that was Threnody for Victims of Hiroshima from Krzysztof Penderecki, which was an aleatoric composition that was meant to literally you can listen to this classical piece of music, classical now, and you can actually construct a narrative in your mind just based off of what the orchestra is doing. It is so powerful. And when he put that in the film, which most people would have not heard, it added this whole element of creepiness to it that people were like, this is deeply unsettling.
Sure.
And when you watch The Shining, this is a great movie, period. One of my favorite psychological thrillers. It's not a horror movie for me. It's a psychological thriller. But whatever, there's violence in it. I mean, there's a little. Okay, all right, I hear you. I agree. But when you think about it, if you mute the film, and where there's music and all that stuff in, it's very slow, and it doesn't make it. It's like it loses its momentum and its creepiness, and you don't feel as creeped out.
Well, I think horror movies without the score are hilarious.
Yeah, they are comical.
Like, it's just almost comedy.
Yeah. Yeah,
when you think about it,
they do have a very high level of comedic. Yeah. It's timing,
and the music does. I mean, the score does so much for it. All the heavy lifting.
It's all the heavy lifting, and same thing happens with we love spaghetti westerns. I do. I love Ennio Morricone. Is one of my favorite composers for film, and Morricone for me, Good, Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah, one of the greats.
It's still. I listened to that soundtrack when I was a child, and it was the last record. We had an old. Remember the old console stereos that used to look like a giant piece of furniture. It looked like a coffin. And
yeah.
you could open it up and there was your record player in there. And you could stack vinyls, right? And I would stack 3 to 4 vinyls every night. And when one finished, the tone arm would move and the platter would drop and you'd listen to one side of another record, right? And couldn't flip it, not ours. But my last choice was Good, Bad, and the Ugly. And so I knew that when I finished that, there was no more records and I could go to sleep.
So do you get sleepy when you hear the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly?
No, I'm totally awake. I'm totally awake to it. But that moment of the 3-way Mexican standoff where they're looking for the gold.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And it's all the close-ups.
Without the music, it's hilarious.
Great. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'd love to play it for you, but you guys just go back and watch this scene. It's near the end.
We might be able to clip it.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're looking at it, you see all of these like close-up, ever including closer and closer and closer shots of eyes shifting and hands, nervously about to have trigger finger, and it's close-up of the gun and out of focus background and all these things, and it becomes more and more hyper-focused. You turn the sound off and it totally falls apart.
Yeah, it's so funny. I want to talk about some moments in films that are musical, but not necessarily turns them into a musical, or even talking about the film score. But we have the kind of, it's almost like a genre of comedy that adds lots of song in, but it doesn't turn it into a musical. For example, I know it's a little confusing. School of Rock, great example.
Sure.
It's not a musical by any means. Now, there's a lot of music in it, and it does help the film.
And it's about music.
And it's a plot device.
Yeah.
As is Sister Act, right?
Yeah.
Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah.
Lauryn Hill in the second one.
Not as good of a film, but okay.
I don't know. Lauryn Hill was pretty awesome.
There's a lot of movies that use music as not only the plot device for the whole central theme of what it's about.
Movies about bands.
Right. There's
like
lots
Almost Famous or Tom Hanks in
The Thing You Do.
Yeah, You Do.
Yeah.
Which even has the title track in the movie.
Yeah, totally right. Yeah. I mean, all of those are cool. And most recently, what's the guy that who wakes up and he and only a very few amount of people remember
Yesterday.
it's Yesterday. There you go.
Is that Dev Patel?
I can't remember.
That was a cool movie.
It was a great movie.
But he kind of plays off that he wrote all the Beatles songs.
Yeah. And he's like, you've never heard this song? Yeah, right. And he went from like being, a busker with no future to
like really
the biggest star, and then writes with Ed Sheeran, and then, all the comedic moments that happen. But that's about music. We're not really so much, I mean, for me, like, I love those films, but yeah, you're right. I mean, there's the
Wayne's
scene.
World.
I was supposed to say Wayne's World with you're totally on the same wavelength with Bohemian Rhapsody. Very high comedic moment. Or when you have folks that are doing a song on screen and butchering it, it's always funny to us because it reflects our humanity.
Oh, like when Chalamet was playing Bob Dylan.
Right.
I
Yeah.
can't say I could watch much of that movie.
I didn't mind it. But Dylan had a lot to do with the movie. I mean, he was on set giving directions about everything.
Artist biopics is just a whole other...
That's a whole other thing. That's a whole other thing. I don't know what that is, in that sense. No, we're not talking... This is way outside of what scores and soundtracks are.
I know Michael and the Freddie Mercury movie, which was fine.
Which is cool, yeah. And the Elton movie... What was that one? I can't remember
it's
that
got
one.
the Kingsman in it.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm just like, it's good. It's a glorified documentary, but I kind of would just rather watch a real documentary that gets into the nuts and bolts of it. Like the most recent one that I watched was Earth, Wind, and Fire. Fantastic documentary. Billy Joel one is fantastic documentary.
The docs, that's a totally...
Right? There's like a lot of great documentaries. There's a golden age of documentaries. And then you look at the score for those documentaries, they're very minimal. Right? Because it's just music to pass the time. So
let's look at some of the great soundtracks.
Ooh, okay.
Which are not the score.
Well, for me they are. So I'm going to put mine in the category. I'm going to have to sneak them in.
Okay.
Because for me, some of my favorites are those records that I know. One of them is Elevator to the Gallows, which is a Louis Malle film.
Sounds like a score to me.
1958. It is a score. 1958. Miles Davis actually scored this. And the cool part about that is the night before he got together with the musicians, they literally came in and watched the edit of the movie and scored it right there. That became the soundtrack to the movie.
Like they didn't watch the movie and then score. They just
they literally were
live
like
scored it.
Just like in the old days.
That's cool.
Like the old days of Foley when we did our Walter Murch episode. Yeah.
That's cool.
Those are some of my favorite. I mean, I love that. I love scores that blur sound design with traditional instruments. So John Bryan did Punch Drunk Love, and he actually did environmental recordings, and there's a lot of sort of electroacoustic elements. It's a very interesting film, and I think that's a really great type of film. I also most recently, I liked Rental Family with Brendan Fraser, and that was
also a score.
It is. That's what I'm saying. I don't
There's
have
no soundtracks that you can think of that you like.
Zero. I mean, I can
like
think
the
of
Forrest Gump soundtrack.
No,
it's unbelievable.
Of course, it's like it's a little history of American music.
Yeah,
I know what it is, but it's like I already have those records, so they don't mean anything to me. I'm not hearing anything new. Same thing with The Wedding Singer. It's like that's a great soundtrack, but I already own those records, so I'm not hearing new.
Let me give you a couple. Okay,
yeah. So I mean, like that's cool.
The Crow soundtrack,
it's cool.
is one of my favorites. There was a movie called Judgment Night in the 90s, where they got rap bands and rock bands to write songs for the movie.
That's interesting.
And there's some really, really great original music that was done for the movie, as well as Queen of the Damned, an amazing soundtrack where the track list. The movie's okay, but the artistry of the bands that they wrote for the movie was very, very cool. I love the Forrest Gump soundtrack just because it is, like you said, it's kind of a history of American music in a lot of ways through Vietnam and in the early 80s.
Yeah. What about High Fidelity or
High Fidelity was an amazing soundtrack.
Right. Yep. I mean, I can think of
Last Action Hero, probably one of my favorite soundtracks. Now, you actually had a couple of Michael Kamen's score tracks from the score on the soundtrack.
Yeah.
But there was new music from Megadeth and AC/DC and just Alice in Chains. It was just such a cool one.
I get it.
Yeah.
I totally get it. That for some reason, just coming from the other side of the coin.
Well, you're a composer, though.
I know. Yeah. And it's like, for me, it's going to be like, I want to listen to Tron. I want to listen to Blade Runner. I want to listen to...
See, I want to watch those.
But I want to listen...
hear them. Like, I can't... Yeah, I don't get the same experience, maybe, of listening to a score without the film. Now, I can see a film so many times where I hear the score and I know where it is in the film.
Oh, yeah.
But, like... for me to listen to the score, that is something for me to go to sleep to. You know what I mean? A lot of the time. Because it doesn't do what it does to me when I watch the film.
I get that.
You see what I mean?
Yeah, I totally
That's
get
why
that.
I like soundtracks that don't even really exist anymore. They're all just playlists on Apple Music and Spotify. But I love that because you could get the theme of the movie and you can get the vibe of the movie and the tone of the movie, but you're also listening to some of your favorite artists play different and new songs. Yeah. And that really
I can see
was
that.
a special moment. And I don't even know if that moment exists for people anymore. Like, I can't think of a lot of movies, like aside from Barbie and a couple of others, where they really spotlighted songs that were on the soundtrack.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean,
Moana, Frozen, like
right.
The Wicked, that was a musical, so that doesn't count.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I'd rather listen to South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut.
One of the greatest, we'll get to that in a minute, one of the greatest musicals ever made.
Right. Or Team America, World Police.
Team America, World.
Anything by
Everyone Has AIDS.
Stone and Parker, I'm going to be a fan of. I want to see.
I'm so Ronry.
Here, exactly. Well, I think here's why I think I go with the way that I do. Of course, it's because of what I'm interested in.
Sure.
As is anything else, right? But when you have classical music, for the most part, and this could be argued in a philosophical way, classical music, as we define it, is dead. Okay. No, let me qualify the statement.
No, go for it.
Because I'm just being a little bit provocative, but really I'm just trying
to provoke.
Because I think it's more or less dead. When you look at most symphony orchestras today, most symphony orchestras typically carry about $1 million to $2.5 million of debt on any given season. All right, if it's not funded
like a Philharmonic.
Like the Nashville Symphony, the Boston Symphony, the London, Symphony Orchestra, wherever.
So like a resident. I was trying to figure like a resident orchestra in whatever city.
Any famous orchestra, Boston, you name it, L.A., Miami, Dallas, you name it.
I'm sure San Francisco's in debt.
Oh. Right? But all of them typically, on average, carry at least that ballpark of debt on any given season. And what do they do to offset that? They do two things. And you see this happening a lot.
Fundraising like a motherfucker.
No, it's not enough to cover expenses. Yeah. So they have to make up the difference through actually programming. And what they do is, if you look at what a typical symphony orchestra performs in a season, you're going to find that the majority of that is all standard rep pieces. In other words, it's classical music it's Beethoven's Ninth. There's hardly any Stravinsky. There's no Rite of Spring. You might get that. They? I'm just saying, you don't even have. You might get. You're right, but you're getting. you're getting like you're getting the greats. You're getting a lot of the dead Germans: Bach, Beethoven, Brahms. Right? You're getting. That's what I call them. You know what I mean? It's the first, second.
That's awesome.
The third.
It's like the Fab Four.
Right.
The dead Germans.
It's the dead Germans. You know what I mean? But it's true. It's Haydn. It's totally. Mozart.
Yeah.
Right? It's all of those things, and then they'll throw in a new work because maybe there was a commission that went through. And it's going to be premiered there. That might happen,
okay.
But that's not where they make their money. They make their money off of Barry Manilow coming in and singing his hits with the symphony orchestra, or they do a live score recreation of Star Wars and show the Star Wars in the symphony hall with a live orchestra, and it's like $200 or $300 a seat, right? And that is how they break even. So I'm saying classical music, as we think about it, is dead. The only thing that is close to its surviving incarnation, and it is a wildly divergent arm of this tree, and that is film score. So for me, John Williams and Hans Zimmer and Daniel Pemberton and and Danny Elfman and all the greats and Bernard Herrmann and all those guys. When we look back at the last 70 years, these are the classical composers of what Mozart and Beethoven would have been in that day.
Clinging onto film to be
it just happens to be the medium. Yeah. It wasn't a second-rate choice. It was just we moved because we didn't have moving pictures back when they were alive. And so as film was developed and photography was developed, we've become much more visually sensitive, and that's the dominant sense in our existence right now.
Well, we've also dumbed down music for many years because of consumption, and when you make it a commodity, like it's become, the appreciation it becomes much different. We talked on one of the episodes about how prior to 1930, many more instruments were in the home, and people were playing music at home because there was no way to deliver. There wasn't high radio and all of that to be able to listen to popular music. You had to play it yourself. So there was a different kind of respect for it. And that's even changed greatly just in the last few years, honestly, with the advent of licensing music on Apple and Spotify and such. I know you and I are both big fans of physical media because they can't take away our guns,
That's right. My musical gun.
But yeah, I do appreciate that side of it because there is a difference in the appreciation due to the commoditization of it.
Well, and you get this whole different, again, things change, and I'm not trying
Trends
to...
change. Oh, absolutely. Right. Don't get off my lawn, me.
Yeah, right. But it's sort of like, okay, look, now you've got things like Suno and AI that can come in and with just minimal prompting will create a production-ready outcome at minimal effort. In fact,
you heard one at the beginning of our episode.
Yeah, the only effort that it took was a little bit of just cultivation and curation by us massaging a prompt to get the result that we thought would be appropriate, right? I think that that's a very dangerous place because what we lose touch with is the amount of sacrifice and sheer life force, life cycle energy that a human being has to devote to getting good at something. Now, we immediately appreciate it We immediately appreciate it with professional athletes, although we don't see the hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of grinding.
That's why we
work.
yell at the TV and be like, "You can't catch that!"
Right, you're an idiot. Right, you know what I mean? But it's
we
also...
We didn't do the 10,000 hours.
I think musicians and artists are exactly the same way. I can say just from personal experience, the amount of years that I spent, decades, trying to get proficient at not only one instrument, but others, and then engineering, and then producing, and then writing, and then composing. I mean, it's my life journey. Mm-hmm. And so to have something that can just sort of devoid your effort in a way that a unsuspecting buyer and the unsuspecting listener can be fooled into thinking, and then to have that same AI train off of you for its algorithm, because it's a learning model, is deeply offensive. It's literally like someone is stealing my style, my whatever. And I'm not a major I'm not Taylor Swift. I'm not whatever. But AI is at this point right now where they're basically, if people are saying, oh, these crazy bands or crazy music, it can't mimic yet. And I'm just going, give it 6 months.
Yeah, it gets better and better. I mean, a few months ago, we did our first episode was on AI, and we've watched it just since then change and get better and even create some beautiful things. Even it's at the moment when you hear it, but when you know that it's fake, you can tell.
Oh yeah, you can totally tell. And we're poking fun at it. We're
totally. Every week.
Every week. Yeah. But for me, it's also know your enemy, right? Yeah. And luckily, I write music that is not standard by any way, and that's why it's not on number one in 15 countries, right? And that's okay with me. I'm totally okay with it. So the chances of me not being aped by AI are infinitely higher than someone like an Ed Sheeran or an Adele or a Bruno Mars or a Metallica, because that whole thing got trained on those models. So I think that's the thing that, you and I, like you rightly said, which is many, many decades ago, there was more of an emphasis on recognizing the athleticism of, to putting it in this metaphorical context, to recognize the athleticism of a musician who really trained and is a masterful singer or pianist or guitarist or what have you, or a songwriter or whatever. And it's like that, to me, cannot be replaced. And that's the thing that I think this version of film scoring with these composers that we've talked about, that's what they represent to me, that's the next lineage of classical music. They have more in common with Bach and Beethoven and, all of the composers that came before them than a Lennon and McCartney do or whatever. That's a different thing. That's a different genre.
Right.
But when we think of classical music and all of the canon of how we elicit emotion, like how do you make someone feel pain or jealousy or envy or whatever to go along with what's happening on the screen, it's all 100% derivative off of what has come before in 20th century music and going back to 1500.
Well, that's a great way to round the bases, because the last part of this, I wanted to talk a little bit about musicals, because if there's one thing that takes having original songs, but also original scoring, and being able to create a narrative out of it and actually keep some of these composers in work, because it's still a popular medium in a lot of regards, is the American musical. I say the American musical because it's a very American proliferated thing over the years.
Yeah.
Not to say that Shakespeare wasn't the original or whatever, or whoever had the first musicals. I don't really know. But I know for sure that all of that, what we're talking about today, is kind of mixed in that one. And that's why we left it as kind of a different genre. There's the score and there's the soundtrack, but a musical kind of does a little bit of both, right? And it kind of fits a lot of things. Now, a typical musical is going to be mostly dialogue, exposition. Everything is going to be in some sort of song format. And it is like a score, because you get reprises and the way that a score is written is kind of how a musical is written. But there's now the entirety weight of all of the dialogue and all of the vocal exposition is going to be in song, which is a very challenging thing to do, especially in a strong way to get your points across. So one of the, I've seen a lot of musicals. I know that's not really your forte, but everybody knows Disney.
Sure.
And you've seen most of them, right?
I've seen most everything that Disney's made.
So we said earlier that the first soundtrack was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And it was released on vinyl. Yeah. The movie was out, released it on vinyl. It's a very collectible thing, obviously, the old pressings of it. But when doing research, we realized that there weren't a lot of non-musical Disney movies until like the 2000s. The ones that we saw, we noticed Bambi still had strong scoring and vocals in different songs, and 101 Dalmatians are not your typical musical. Right. But almost everything else up to like 1985, Peter Pan, even the live action stuff like Mary Poppins, these are all musicals. And they did such a great job with that. Then 1985 was The Black Cauldron, 1990 was The Rescuers. But other than that, another 10 years, 2000 was the next time. And there was such a great trend for Disney for many years, but they really brought the musical back in the 90s and really helped a lot of The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, The Lion King, Beauty and the Beast. And all of these are either remade into live action, they're Broadway shows or whatever. It's such phenomenal phenomenal work and some of the greatest selling musicals of all time. A Broadway show is a little different. What we're talking about is film musicals.
Yeah. The problem that I have with some of this, not anything with the film musicals, is when Broadway adopts a film musical for a Broadway production. I hate that.
It can be great. It can be bad.
I hate it because it's like, what else?
You've never seen Beauty and the Beast on Broadway.
Yeah.
It's absolutely incredible.
Man.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, the thing is, I want to see new drama. I want to see new comedies. I want to see new musicals. I don't want to see a movie that I've already seen reenacted live on. That doesn't interest me. I'd rather see a new piece, a new musical, but a new musical that isn't never been translated before. It's brand new. That has more appeal to me to go to the theater than going to a movie and going, oh, they've made it into a musical. Now I'm going to go watch it as a musical. Then it'd be like, oh, they've made it into a high school play. I'm going to go make it into a high school play. Cool. It's like, where do you stop? Like, can we just get some original material on Broadway? Because a disproportionate amount of Broadway that's running right now is all derived from film.
There's a lot of original on Broadway right now.
Okay, great.
I just FYI.
Okay.
There's tons.
Is there?
Yes.
What are the biggest?
There's like
grossing
150 shows that are new on Broadway right now.
Wow.
Yeah, like in the last 10 years is what I mean by new. And
okay.
For a show that is new.
Okay, but you look at how long has The Lion King been running? You know, how long is
The Lion King never stopped.
I know.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Or and then you have the reverse, you know,
which you haven't seen.
Where you have I didn't mind the Hamilton version where it started as a musical.
They didn't make a movie though. They just put the musical on Disney.
Right. But
it's phenomenal.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I thought I'm like, yeah, this is cool. This is fun. This is a lot of fun.
And it's a lot of scoring.
But I think that, man, it's such an economics thing when you've got to rehash a movie and make it into a Broadway musical. Just make a new musical and that's how the art form's going to survive. Otherwise, it's completely derivative. The creative tree is being sapped,
right,
because of Hollywood screenwriters.
So was Barbie was close? Was it a musical?
Oh, you mean to me? Well, I guess
that was a new idea. It was cool.
I loved Barbie.
Yeah,
I love it. I own it. It's great. Wonderful.
I thought
film.
Wicked was good in the theater. You know, I thought that was terrific.
Not
and you know, Wizard of Oz being a musical as it is,
yeah,
it's kind of interesting to see a sequel or actually a prequel.
Or a prequel. Yeah, didn't do much for me.
Okay.
But I mean, you know, look, I'm just coming from a different place. I haven't yet developed the true appreciation for.
I got to take you to New York, dude. We got to go see some shows. I'm
I
serious.
mean, but the times I've been to Broadway, you know, and I get to see like the producers and, you know, Cabaret and Book of Mormon, dude, and all that. I mean, I dig it, but I don't like Cats.
Cats is awful.
I don't like Pirates of Penzance.
Never saw it.
I don't like Les Mis. I don't like it.
It's probably really sad.
I mean, who wants to get dressed up and feel like shit for, you know, an hour and a half? I don't. You know, anyway.
Revolution.
but I have to say,
what I was getting at is like it's one of the last bastions for composers to have a path.
But it's different. It's not. When you're composing for musicals, it's a whole different way of composing than when you're composing for film or when you're composing for a real classical music audience like a symphony orchestra. That's a whole different headspace to be in. And because you're subservient to a narrative that has already been done, whereas when you're working on a musical, you have a libretto in the sense that you have something that you need to set to music, and that's a different level of
trying to bring us
type.
Together here, man.
Oh,
Not
man,
tear us apart.
We're together, brother. We're together. I'm just got a couple of pet peeves that I
see that.
I have no opinion.
Tell us how you really feel.
That's right. But yeah, I don't know.
Not a big Andrew Lloyd Webber guy.
I am not an Andrew Lloyd Webber fan. I'm genuinely not.
Well,
yeah. Starlight Express. I mean, you know, like.
Yeah, I mean, to me, Phantom of the Opera is just this great production, but that's part of it is just the production is so cool.
Just read Faust and be done with it, and it's much better. But anyway, I hear you.
So musicals being, I feel like just in a relationship where it does kind of all of the same things.
Yep.
Maybe at a different level, but they kind of do the same things that we've talked about.
And I'm not saying it's a derogatory level.
Oh no, I don't
it's
think
just
so.
different. It's different. You know, it's like donuts, and then you have steak, and then you have pasta, and then you have whatever Thai food. You know, it's just different meal.
Yeah.
Right. It's all nutritious.
Yeah. So You definitely gotta. I would recommend just doing the New York thing with Kristen or something, and just going to some musicals and just biting the bullet, because it's really like, and it's something that I've always like enjoyed in my life, but like I've had more appreciation for it later in life as I've gotten to see more shows and get to be at more of the productions. It's just a really incredible.
I totally agree with
thing.
you. I am absolutely my level of experience is minimal. With musicals, and
go to a community theater. That shit's fun too.
I'll go to. I love supporting theater.
Yeah.
It's totally fine. I have no problem with it.
I saw.
I grew up, but just growing up in
Toxic
Texas,
Avenger in community theater. It was amazing. Yeah.
I'm cool with that. I just for me growing up in Texas back in the 70s and the 80s, musical theater was not part of my growing up. It was sports, and it was all kinds of alt new wave bands and metal and playing an instrument and skateboarding, and it was that kind of stuff. I wasn't a theater kid, even though I had theater friends in high school, and some of them are still close friends to this day, but I was just never into theater. I was like, that doesn't light me up. I'd rather go watch a movie, or and my best friend was in most of the musicals in high school,
right?
Three Penny Opera, the whole nine, Death of a Salesman. I mean, like, he did all those musicals, and we were best friends. But I'd be like, yeah, man, it just doesn't do me. So maybe one day I'll get there.
Yeah.
I'm open. I'm open.
Oh,
to
I know
it.
you are. Yeah, for sure.
So,
all right, well, let's talk about the way we're going to close this show is we're going to talk about just the best selling, because I think that is an interesting thing to see. And I know it doesn't tell you how good it is.
No.
It just tells you how much it made in relationship to everyone else.
Well, and maybe it says
popularity.
It tells you where our cultural emphasis is.
Yeah.
Where the best is not necessarily the most profitable.
Right. So we'll start with number 3 on soundtracks is Dirty Dancing.
Okay.
Which was huge. I mean, it's a couple big songs,
Yeah.
Not my favorite movie. It was okay.
Hey, don't put baby in a box.
Yeah, corner. And then number 2 is Saturday Night Fever. Bee Gees.
Okay.
Classic.
Yeah.
That one did 40 million copies.
Wow. And yeah.
And then number 1 is no shock to anyone. Was the biggest song for like 2 years in like my teenage years was Whitney Houston's version of "I Will Always Love You" on the Bodyguard soundtrack.
Written by Dolly Parton.
Yep. which is to me is the superior version.
Yes, me too.
44 million copies, which is, I mean, it just by any standard.
How about the Titanic? Celine had her huge song.
Well, that
off of that. Did that wind up on the list?
I think it was later. The score actually did better, which is sad. For you. Your favorite movie.
A win for me.
Yeah, I know it's your favorite movie.
Oh God, yeah.
But that was the number 1 score sales of all time. Was the Titanic score?
Yeah,
30 million. That's crazy. And then you got A New Hope was number 2.
Okay, all right.
Which that was a great score.
No, A New Hope. I mean,
A New Hope to me is like the perfect throughout the movie as it goes on. It's like the perfect setup for as many movies as they did to be able to make all the callbacks to the different leitmotifs.
I think, yeah. And that was the thing that that Lucas was really concerned about, and one of the things that he gave as a direction. Because if you look at John Williams, by the way, one of my all-time favorite John Williams scores is "Catch Me If You Can."
Oh yeah,
and that gets back to his jazz composing and his heritage, which is what he was.
Which I didn't know. You told me that earlier.
Johnny Williams.
Yeah.
Look him up. Look up those early records from Johnny Williams.
I love it.
Right?
I want to call him Johnny Williams.
Right? But when you look at A New Hope, and think about this, Lucas just pivoted from American Graffiti, right, to New Hope. But he said, I want to go back to the big age of Hollywood, classic large symphony orchestras. And so what did that give him the ability to do is to mine, sometimes steal directly from Mendelssohn, from Strauss, from Wagner, from Stravinsky, from all. He has a whole pastiche of influences that he drew into all of the Star Wars, but he made it a part of his thing because he worked so much with Lucas and moving
Well, I think
forward.
it mirrored the film too. The film was the same thing.
Yeah, it was a
it
space
was borrowed
opera
from a lot of different styles and spaghetti westerns and
Well, the thing I love
Flash
about that,
Gordon and Metropolis and
I think the best part for me was, and this is just me being, just coming from loving a lot of Eastern philosophy and everything else, is Lucas told the story from the exact same angle that The Hidden Fortress did. This is Akira Kurosawa, Seven Samurai and everything else, one of my all-time favorite directors. But he has a movie with Toshiro Mifune, is also the head lead in it. He kind of plays a Han Solo character. And guess what it's about? It's about a princess that's caught between two warring kingdoms, and she needs to be smuggled back across to get her safely to her homeland. But the whole point of view of the story and how it's told is through two peasant farmers that are right. Yeah. It's exactly
the muses. But it's D2 C3PO.
It's exactly the same story in that way. And you mix that with Joseph Campbell's Hero of a Thousand Faces, and you start to get into these ecumenical human stories about the Delphic Oracle. Who are we? Why are we here? And the hero's journey. And I think that that's the thing that made Star Wars so prescient, and why it still survives so much to this day.
It's funny. Dave Filoni did a pretty amazing job in the first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian by taking those references as well, and some of those exact storylines, and recreating them in that universe, which is a good little tip of the hat to old George Lucas.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. I love all that. And by the way, a lot of leitmotifs were involved in Mandalorian as well from the originals.
Ludwig Göransson.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I love all of that. Like that, to me, that's the new classical music. It's the new classical music.
Yeah.
Minus all the pop songs and the soundtracks. That's cool too.
This doesn't exist anymore, though.
No, but
these are just playlists.
It's just playlists. Yeah, true.
Except Record Store Day. That's when you get your reissues of Reality Bites.
Yeah, you get the Crow reissue on red vinyl.
Yeah,
red marble vinyl. Yeah. With a sticker and a tote bag.
It's actually got crow blood in it.
Exactly. Yeah, man. I mean, I love it. I think it's great, but it's such a cool thing when we talk about how music is really an emotional expression, and then we get to look at it in these different facets, and soundtracks and score are, to me, one of the high points of that.
And we want to know your favorites. So like and subscribe, drop in a comment, say your favorite score, soundtrack, tell me you hate musicals.
Join my side of the. No, I'm kidding. I like musicals. It just was not part of my
upbringing. I was just kidding.
But you know what? I have to say on that, we're thinking about this, and this is just something for the regular viewers. We love to be able to play all of these examples and everything else, but we keep having a lot of trouble with YouTube flagging us, saying, "Oh, you guys can't do this." And it's sort of like, well, I see a whole lot of other people doing it. And so we're trying to figure out a way that we can give the most bang for the buck, which is zero, because there's no bucks.
But if you have any ways that I'm all ears.
Yeah, I think we should just start a tip jar. And then if we can do a tip jar, we can have something that
I think we should start a swear jar, but that's just me.
Ooh, that's good. Fuck yeah.
Earworm out.
Earworm out.
Classical is dead, but we're bringing it back. A score is a score, but it's also a soundtrack. Earworm stuck in my mind, can't get it out this time.